Hello, this is Laura Wogozogan, your math professor this semester. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Project 3. So in Canvas, I'm going to go to Modules, and from here I am going to find our Project 3 folder, which is on Disney World. In that folder, you'll notice that we have an intro video, which is being recorded right now, along with the project as a PDF and as a Word document. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up. We will be using data set 33. And if you're not sure how to find that, it's at the very end of the PDF or Word document. You'll notice that there's going to be some pictures on how to find that data set. So please look at that if you're stuck. This is also an individual project. You're going to be submitting your own solutions. You can work together, however, make sure that your answers are unique for you, meaning that your explanations need to be worded in your own words and not that of a classmate. 0 points are given for any part that is not following those directions. The project does need to be typed. Each part needs to be correctly labeled and completed in order. And you need to use a statistical computer program. Again, I'll be using StatDisk, and if you want to use something different, please reach out and let me know. Again, it needs to be a computer program and not just some app that you found on the web. So again, make sure you talk to me about this if you plan on using something different. The project does need to be uploaded on Canvas as a single PDF, no late projects. Points for each part are listed along with the total points adding up to 45. So we do need screenshots for parts 2, 3, 6, 8, and 9 this time. And we also need to make sure that your screenshots are legible and inserted into the project in the correct number question. You also need to provide clearly stated answers, so not just putting that picture of that screenshot, but also stating what the answer is, and making sure to round your answers correctly to 4 decimal places. No points are rewarded for using a graphing calculator on these parts that need the computer output, and explanations need to be written in complete sentences. So the objective is to gain knowledge of working with a computer program. So number 1 is asking us to verify in order to find a confidence interval for the mean wait time for Space Mountain at 10 a.m. Clearly states. So for this, it's worth 3 points. And so if you go to your chapter 7 notes, which are on confidence intervals, you'll notice that section 7.1 is talking about proportions. And for proportions, you can find what you need to verify at the bottom of page 3. Likewise, section 7.2 talks about means, and you can find what you need to verify at the bottom of page 6. Those verification things need to be met before we can actually find the confidence interval. Since this problem for number 1 does ask for a confidence interval of the mean wait time, we do know that we should be looking in section 7.2 for that, since it does say the word mean. Number 2 and number 3 are both asking for confidence intervals, one being 90% and one being 95%. Again, for the mean wait time for Space Mountain at 10 a.m. And then also make sure to interpret your results. We did do this on the previous project, so definitely something that we should have some experience with already. Number 4 says, what do you notice about the width of the confidence interval? This again is just your interpretation of what you notice. Number 5 is asking again for something to be verified. So this says what needs to be verified in order to conduct a hypothesis test to determine the mean wait times for Space Mountain at 10 a.m. And so for this, we're just again checking what needs to be verified. This time we will be using chapter 8 notes. And again, it says mean in here, so you need to find the section that we discuss in the mean in the chapter 8 notes and see what needs to be verified. Make sure to clearly list those. Number 6 is asking for us to use the data, test the claim using the p-value method that the mean wait time at Space Mountain at 10 a.m. is longer than 34 minutes. So, and it does say at the 10% significance level, make sure to include the null and alternative hypotheses, test, and conclusion. So for this, you need to make sure you state H0 and H1, and then you need to use StatDisk for this problem, and you need to get a p-value. So make sure you do that, and then you need to compare it to our alpha value, which is given, and then stating if you're going to reject or fail to reject that null hypothesis, and then writing your conclusion just like how we have done in our notes. Number 7 is also asking for what needs to be verified, but this time we're testing to see the difference between the mean wait time at Space Mountain at 10 a.m. and the mean wait time at Space Mountain at 5 p.m. So this time we have 2 samples that we're dealing with at 10 a.m. and at 5 p.m. So this is going to actually be a Chapter 9 problem, still dealing with means, so make sure that you go ahead and look at that. Also, don't forget that we did discuss in Chapter 9 if things are independent or dependent. And these people that are there at Disney World at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. have no correlation between the two, no relationship. So this is definitely some independent data that we're dealing with. Number 8 says using the data, test the claim that using the p-value method that the mean wait at Space Mountain is different at 10 a.m. than at 5 p.m. Again, make sure to state the null and alternative hypotheses, test, and also write your conclusion. This time again, we're still using those 2 samples that we saw earlier, one at 10 a.m. and one at 5 p.m. And then number 9 says use the data, test the claim using the confidence interval method that the mean wait time at Space Mountain is different at 10 a.m. than it is for 5 p.m. Notice the questions for 8 and 9 are identical, but number 8 is asking for you to use the p-value method, whereas number 9 is asking for the confidence interval method. And so with this, remember for the confidence interval method, this is where you had to determine if 0 was in the interval or not in the interval. So definitely something to look back at your notes to see. It also does say to make sure you state what you can conclude from the test and clearly explain. So again, stating if 0's in that interval or not in that interval. So also to remind you, we do have another folder on here that says StatDisk Help for Projects. There's an intro video, the manual, which is a great place to look, help videos, which I also find very resourceful for us. And again, like we said, this stuff is coming from chapters 7, 8, and 9, and those videos are labeled by 7, 8, and 9, so you can kind of find a video that corresponds to that question. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open up StatDisk so we can take a quick look at it. So, and again, I'm using a tablet, so your view might be a little different if you're looking on a phone or on a computer or a laptop. So from here, I have the data already inputted in. Again, to get to that, you would go to Datasets and find that from 14th edition, find the Walt Disney World data, which again is listed on the bottom of that PDF. For us to find confidence intervals, we can see that there's a confidence interval here. We had 1 sample and 2 samples, and then it also is talking about with proportions or with means. We also have hypothesis testing, the same setup. So proportions, 1 sample, proportions, 2 samples, and then dealing with the mean 1 sample, mean 2 independent samples, or where they're matched up, matched pairs. So I'm just going to go ahead and select the mean 1 sample. I want you to notice that up at the top it does say to use the summary statistics. The easiest way to do this is to use the data. So from here you're able to select what you want as your alternative hypotheses. You're also then able to select your significance level, and from here it says population standard deviation. We don't know that. And then column, and you would select what it is that you need to look at. And then from here we could evaluate. So again, using that use data up at the top is very helpful. So get an early start on your project. Remember, no late projects, and definitely ask if there are any questions. Another resource is that going to the Marks. They have faculty there that are familiar with StatDisk and can also help. Best of luck, and again, let me know if you have any questions.